Welcome to episode 111. There is no better time than right now to plan your vacation getaway. Don't have the time to plan? Use the friendly travel agents at 3D Travel Company by going to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and clicking the Book Now button today on the left-hand side. Hurry and plan your trip today so you can travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest is the voice of the original Lion-O from Thundercats. He's also the voice of Sonny from Cocoa Puffs, and for those of you who remember the Count Chocula cereal commercials, he's the voice of the Count as well. Here's a clip of the three characters and then an amazing interview with today's special guest. I hope you all enjoy.
Lion-O, one time Lord of the Thundercats. One time, we'll see about that.
Sonny, why are kids calling Cocoa Puffs Cuckoo Puffs?
I'm cuckoo for Cuckoo Puffs. I'm cuckoo for Cuckoo Puffs.
It's the chocolatey taste. See, Cocoa Puffs, part of this complete breakfast, tastes so chocolatey that while it says cocoa on the box, it's cuckoo in your mouth.
I'm cuckoo for Cuckoo Puffs.
He means Cocoa Puffs.
The chocolatey taste you know Cuckoo for.
Oh, it's a mash.
It's a monster mash.
Monster mash.
To introduce the new chocolatey marshmallow in my Count Chocula cereal.
Will it be Frankenstein, the mummy, the squirrel ghost, or the werewolf?
And the new chocolatey marshmallow is...
All of them?
Exactly! 4 new chocolatey marshmallows for a chocolatey fright in every bite. For a limited time.
Wild!
Count Chocula cereal, a spooky part of this good breakfast.
Oh, it's a mash.
It's a monster mash!
Hello, you're listening to Who Did That Voice? This is Count Chocula with my friend, Sonny the Cuckoo Bird.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show I am super excited to be bringing you an interview with Larry Kinney. Larry, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Trenton. Thank you for calling me.
Hey, absolutely. Well, I've been super looking forward to this. It's really exciting to have you on today. And, we're going to talk about a lot of awesome stuff that you've worked on. But the very first thing that I really want to know is who was the little boy, Larry Kinney, that grew up into the man he became and the voice actor that he became?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't think I ever really grew up. I hope I never do.
That's awesome.
But, you mean what kind of a kid was I? Well, I was a really fun-loving kid. I had a great childhood. I had a vivid imagination. I was always coming up with character voices and doing impressions of famous people, even when I was a kid. Thank goodness, it led to some good things. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know what to tell you. I was just an all-American kid, in a small town in Illinois, and have very fond memories of my childhood.
That's wonderful to hear, Larry. Well, like when acting became something, of course you were doing voices as a child. When did acting become something that you got an interest in? Was it in high school or college, or when did that all kind of become an interest for you?
Well, strangely enough, I, at a very young age, I don't know, maybe 10 years old, I somehow knew, without actually envisioning myself on stage or behind a microphone or anything like that, I had this strange innate knowledge almost that I was going to somehow be in show business.
Oh, wow.
I can't really, I mean, I would watch, Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show and all the guests he had on there. And it was almost as if I were the next one coming on, I mean, again, I didn't pretend it. I didn't, stand up and do comedy bits like anything like that while the show was on. I watched the show as if I were preparing myself for my career, and fortunately it turned out that came true, but I never really was overly involved in acting. I didn't do any acting in school, even in high school. I did a couple of plays in college, but I started so young in radio. I was 15 when I started in radio.
Wow, that's
professionally.
amazing.
Yeah, it really was a lucky break. So there's that.
That's awesome. So when did voiceover first start for you then, and how did you get into that genre of acting?
I guess you could say it started when I started in radio because I was as a disc jockey. I was a DJ, but it's a different thing now being a DJ now. But
yeah, a little different.
you know, this is back. I started in 1963.
Oh wow!
This
Goodness.
is back when the Beatles were just coming out, you know, and the Rolling Stones and all the American groups and the Motown sound and everything. Since I had always been known to do funny character voices and impersonating cartoon voices I'd see on TV. When I became a disc jockey, I incorporated that into my show. You know, if I heard something the night before on TV, I would steal it and use it the next day on that radio show. Impressions of people I'd seen maybe on the Ed Sullivan Show or something like that. You know. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
That's when I first started doing it professionally. And when you're on the radio in a small town, at least back then, you don't get paid extra. At least we didn't get paid extra for doing commercials. You know, it was just part of your job. There were live ones you'd read while you're on the air, and then there were other ones that they wanted you to record that appeared on other times of the day when you weren't on. You know.
Yeah.
So every day, either before my show, I would have to go to my little cubby and take out the copy for the scripts. I mean, the scripts for the commercials that they wanted me to do that day, and go in the production studio to record them. And it used to be kind of a pain in the butt, you know, because the exciting part was being on the air live.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a chore. But looking back on it, it was a very, very good preparation for my career because it got me into some experience doing commercials, you know. And then, of course, since I did the cartoon voices, when I got to a larger city, I think it was the first one I got to Cleveland, Ohio, which was a major city back then. It was the 8th largest in the country. Then I joined the union, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and a Screen Actors Guild for television commercials. It's one union now, SAG-AFTRA it's called. So that's when I first started doing voiceover professionally.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for diving into your background and you as a child. That was really sweet. It sounds like you were a fun-loving kid, and you still have that childlike heart. I love it. So,
thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, Larry, the next thing we're going to dive into is Thundercats, where you played Lion-O, Jackalman, Wizra, and a ton of other characters, along with coming back on the reboot in 2011 as Claudius, I believe is how his name is pronounced. What was it like? Right, yeah. What was it like getting to play on Thundercats as more specifically Lion-O, and how did that job come about for you?
Well, it came about like anything else at that point in my career. I had to audition for it. It was in 1983, I think, late 83. My agent called one day and said, "You've got an audition tomorrow at 2:00, let's say, at this particular place, for a new animated series that's going to record here in New York," which was strange because back in those days, all the animation was recorded out in California. So just like any other audition, you know, you go there at your appointed time at the appointed place. They tell you what they're looking for, and you go in. When it's your turn, you go in the booth and do the best you can, and then you just go home and wait and see if they call you back. You know, so that's how I got that an audition. They auditioned hundreds of people in New York and Chicago and LA for each of those roles, and I got lucky.
Well, it's wild that they filmed that in New York, or, you know, recorded that in New York, because you're right. Mm-hmm. Most of it is done in LA. So it is kind of like, whoa, New York. Okay. What was it like working with that cast of people?
Oh, it was, I think probably the most fun of anything I've done in my career because of the cast and the crew. We had just the greatest people, the most talented and most fun people. We got along so well. And for so long, too, because we did virtually the same cast of people and same director and the same recording crew did not only Thundercats, but we did Silverhawks, Tiger Sharks, and then we did a Saturday morning show for Rankin Bass that composed of 4 half-hour cartoon shows called The Comic Strip. And then during the course of that took us over like 4 or 5 years to record all those things.
Wow.
And during the course of that, we also did several Rankin Bass. That was the name of the company that produced it, Rankin Bass. We did several of their animated Christmas or holiday features.
I remember
which,
those
some
names.
of them still play today. A Star for Jeremy, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. You still see some of those around Christmas time every year.
Oh yeah.
So the point is, we worked together so long as a group, those 5 or 6 of us, that and a crew, that we got to be really, kind of a family. And we had so much fun recording it because everybody there had a great sense of humor and a lot of talent.
Wow.
So it's probably one of the best memories of my career.
That is fantastic, Larry. I didn't realize Silverhawks kind of spawned off and all of those other shows like Rankin Bass. That name comes to mind because, around the Christmas time, you see that name all the time on those shows, and in the end credits and stuff.
Sure.
Do what?
No, I said sure. You're right.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, I grew up watching some of their Christmas specials, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
With Fred Astaire, Frosty the Snowman with Burl Ives.
Yeah.
So when I heard I was going to be auditioning for a Rankin Bass project, I thought, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's really epic, Larry. I didn't know all of that with Rankin Bass. That's fantastic because those are they're classics. They just are something that everybody watches every year, and that to know that you're a part of that, that's super special. It makes the holidays even more special now that I know that you were a part of all that.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, you did mention Silverhawks, and that was both theme songs from Thundercats to Silverhawks, Tiger Sharks, they were all really awesome shows. And it's just really cool to know that you were a part of that. And I didn't realize, I guess, that Tiger Sharks and Silverhawks was all done in New York as well then, correct?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Wow. Those are some great shows, and I had no clue. I had no clue they were done in New York. That's awesome.
Well, now you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's why we do it. That's why we do the show. But, what was it like for you getting to return all these years later in 2011, Larry, to return to Thundercats?
Oh, you mean on the remake, the Warner Brothers remake in 2011, I think it was.
Yeah, on the reboot.
I was really honored because, I had all of us on the show, I think. I know I always felt kind of an obligation to maintain the legacy of Thundercats, and every once in a while something would come up, a project where they want me to do a Lion-O that said some unsavory things or whatever, or just didn't fit what I thought was appropriate for Thundercats, for what we had created. But when this came along, I asked him for a script, and I could tell it was really good writing, just like the original script. It was written very, very well. And I think they did a good job with it. I was really proud to be a part of it. I played Claude, Lion-O's father. I was only in a few episodes because it was the prequel to the original Thundercats, actually. It went back to a time when Lion-O's father was the Lord of the Thundercats, and then he had to decide between Tigra and Lion-O, which one to leave the Sword of Omens to and make them Lord of the Thundercats. So when I got the call, I said, "Yeah, this is really great." And then when I went over and saw some of their animation and the illustrations of the characters and things, I thought, "Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. It's going to be good." I think they did a very good job with it. I just wish it had lasted longer.
Yeah, I understand. Well, it's really cool that they brought you back, especially as Lion-O's father. I think the legacy of that show and that character for you and the generation of that family line of cats, it's really cool to see that you've been a part of that and that they were able to bring you back and just keep that magic alive that, makes Thundercats what it is today,
Yeah, I agree.
Well, besides these amazing animated projects that we've dove into a little bit, Larry, tell me about Cocoa Puffs.
Well, it's a cereal, a breakfast cereal. I know that's not what you meant. Cocoa Puffs came about the same way as my job on Thundercats and the rest of them, through audition. I had been in New York for about 4 or 5 years when I got a call to audition for Cocoa Puffs. A gentleman named Chuck McCann had been the voice of Sonny the Cuckoo Puffs Bird for many years, and he was moving out to the West Coast, as I recall. So they wanted somebody, locally. I think for the first couple of years that he lived in L.A., he flew back to do the Cocoa Puffs commercials, but it got to be kind of a hassle for them, so they decided to get somebody else. Again, I went to the audition, and they said, "Look, you don't have to come up with a new voice. In fact, we want you to match Chuck McCann's voice as close as they can, because the character's been established for years now, and the kids and the parents know the voice, and so we don't want to all of a sudden change his voice, So that was pretty easy to do. I just came as close as I could to Chuck McCann's voice, and I've now been the voice of Sonny for 39 years, I guess.
Good Lord. So you're still doing it?
Yeah, although we haven't done a new commercial for about a year. I don't know if maybe I haven't seen any of their newest commercials on TV, so they may have gone to a different format, or they may very well have gotten somebody new to play Sonny, but I haven't heard.
Good Lord, Larry. Well, 39 years is a long time to play that character. That means that you've been the voice of Cocoa Puffs Cocoa Bird for my entire life, which means you're the one I grew up with. So, wow, that's epic.
That's right.
I mean,
same thing with Count Chocula.
Oh, that's awesome. I was definitely going to get there too. Yeah, Count Chocula. And do they still use Count Chocula as much? I know I've seen the Cocoa Bird or the Cuckoo Bird more than I've seen Count Chocula, I think.
Well, we haven't made Count Chocula commercials for several years, maybe 10 years. They stopped making commercials, Count Chocula. I still occasionally will do something for the General Mills website.
Okay.
They have an interactive website for kids, games to play and things like that.
Yeah.
But they haven't done commercials for Cocoa Puffs for years. And as a matter of fact, I don't think you can even buy Count Chocula.
Yeah, I think
you can't even buy it except for around Halloween. They bring it out again.
Okay. I thought I had seen it here and there, but then again, I was like, I don't recall it as much. I know some of the cereals have changed over times, and sometimes they don't even use the mascots as much as they used to, which as a kid growing up, that's what made the cereals fun, because, it's like the Trix Rabbit and the Cocoa Puffs Cuckoo Bird. And, it was so fun to see all those as a kid growing up in the 80s and the 90s. And so to know that you've been these characters of Count Chocula and the Cuckoo Bird on Cocoa Puffs, I mean, that's super epic because it's a huge part of my childhood, so it's exciting to talk with you about that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. Well, Larry, do you have social media, or is there a way people can reach you if they're fans, or maybe they're even looking to hire you for a voiceover project?
I'm on Facebook. Just my name, Larry Kenny. I think there's several other Larry Kennys on there, but mine's the one. My picture is in front of a montage of the characters, Lion-O and Jackalman and Sonny and the Count and all that. So they can reach me on Facebook. And I don't do Twitter. I just never got into that, or Instagram.
I understand.
I'm of a generation where it's one social media thing is about all we can handle.
I understand. It can be quite a lot just handling one, let alone multiple platforms, which I got into when I started my show. So believe me, I understand when you just stick with Facebook. I understand.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish that's all I did, but but anyway, Larry, what are some other voiceover things that you've worked on besides being a radio DJ and working on animated projects and commercials for cereals and such? What are some other things that you've worked on?
Aside from commercials?
Well, in the animations and stuff, are there any other animated projects or?
No, there are no other animated projects. I did do one episode of Family Guy, but that was as Lion-O.
Yeah.
No, those have been the only animated projects I've done. But I've done tens of thousands of commercials over the years for lots of other people. Let's see, what do I have on currently? People can hear. Oh, Skittles Candy. The Skittles commercial.
Yeah. Oh, the Skittles. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the guy at the end of all of them. It says, "Feel the rainbow, taste the rainbow."
Is that really you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That is pretty epic. That is, That's pretty awesome. I had no idea that was you because it goes so fast and it's so like boom, it's like, sometimes you hear somebody all the time and you don't realize it, so that's pretty awesome.
And of course, back in the 80s, as you mentioned, you said something about me being the voice of your childhood. I hear that a lot because I realize why. Because back in the 80s, when people, of your age were watching, or I don't know exactly how old you are, but through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I did lots and lots of commercials for toys and games and things like that,
Oh, wow.
So you pretty much couldn't watch TV for a day without hearing me a few times.
Well, I'm actually 31 years old, so I definitely probably grew up hearing a lot of you then if you were doing toy commercials and food commercials and just a variety of things, but you have a great booming voice that's very it's soothing to listen to, but it's very powerful at the same time, and it's got a childlike essence to it too. It's just very, I don't know, it's an amazing voice. I could listen to you all day long.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome, Larry. Well, I have a couple extra questions for you and we will wrap this interview up. The first of the two is, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking at joining the acting world and getting into this business, maybe trying to more specifically gear towards voiceover, but just acting in general?
Well, it's a difficult question these days for me to answer that, because I got in the business, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And everything has changed so much now. There are ways of getting into the business that I'm not even aware of, probably due to the internet. You can go on the internet and find looking for voice actors, or make money as a voice actor, and so people can get into it that way. But if you're going to do it on a major scale, if you want to do it like national commercials, which are recorded mostly in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, you really have to have an agent, and so for that, you can't get an agent. It's an old catch-22. You can't get an agent unless you have something to play for them that you've done,
Yeah.
So I recommend that people go to some sort of school or classes, voiceover acting classes or something like that. You can Google voice classes or voice acting, and then put your name of your nearest big town, and you get a list of all the people who offer classes. And what happens is I have no idea how much it costs these days. Probably I would say several $100s probably. They offer classes for let's say 10 weeks, and you go twice a week at night or whenever, and it's like 3-4 hours a night. But the great thing about it is, during the course of that program, if you pick one of the better classes to go to, they will have each week they'll bring in some people from advertising agencies, casting directors, producers of commercials from agencies, and that way you'll get to get your foot in the door by meeting some of these people. You'll get to network with them, And then also, probably the biggest benefit of going to classes is that, again, the best of them offer you when you're all done with the class. As you leave, you leave with what we used to call a demo reel, reel-to-reel tape that they've helped you create. That's about 2.5 minutes long. That shows the range of what you can do, and that's something you can take to an agent's office and ask them, to listen to your tape and at least get a foot in the door. That's what I always recommend, is taking classes.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about a demo reel, they do call them demo reels even to this day. And you mentioned reel-to-reel tape. And I guess I never really thought about it before, but that term actually must have come during the reel-to-reel era, because, the demo reel.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So
Now, yeah, you're right. They still call it a demo reel, but now it's on a CD.
Yeah, or digital. It's not even a physical anything. It's just a piece of digital MP3 or something. So
that's right. That you can email with someone.
It's so crazy how things have advanced. But the reel-to-reel became a cassette tape and encased. It was really reel-to-reel encased in a certain piece of plastic in a rectangular shape, and then they went to CDs, and now it's all digital. It's just it's so crazy how things have developed over the years, from one format to another, and then to pretty much nothing at all. So.
That's for sure.
It's pretty wild. But Larry,
as
that's
in every other walk of life, I'm sure every other business has changed the same.
Oh yeah,
same way.
Yeah, and so many people have become digital in one way or another. In companies today, a lot of times they don't even use paper anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
But
that's right.
Larry, the last and final question I have for you today is: what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Gee, I've been asked that many times. First of all, I think to answer something like that is a little precocious, because it's, here's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good question, and I would ask people the same thing, but I always kind of hate to answer it because, it seems like I'm pumping myself up. But overall, I think I would I'm glad that people will remember me for Thundercats and Silverhawks and all those things, and then Count Chocula and Cocoa Puffs and all the commercials I've done. But overall, I just hope people remember that I was a good guy, and that I was a lot of fun, and a nice guy. That's all. I don't expect people to remember me as some kind of an icon or big star or anything like that. It's nice if they want to, but I'm just like it. I'm just a person like everybody else who just wants to be liked.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great legacy. You're very humble, is how I see it, and you're a very down to earth guy who's just very fun loving and pretty darn likable, if I say so.
I appreciate that, Trent, and so are you.
I really appreciate it. Larry, it's been so fun talking with you today, and you're one heck of a guy. I could see us hanging out and having drinks together, but
let's do it.
That would be fun, man. It would totally be fun. But would you please do us? It's been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show today. Would you please close us out today as Count Chocula and the Cuckoo Bird from Cocoa Puffs, Sonny?
Yahoo! You're listening to Who Did That Voice? Hi, I'm Sonny, the Cocoa Puffs Cuckoo Bird. And my friend and I, Count Chocula. Say hi, Count.
I'm a little busy, but hello.
We want you to listen all the time to Who Did That Voice? And we might be back on again. Right, Count?
Oh, gosh, I hope not. I'm tired already.
Well, everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with Larry Kinney, the voice of Sonny from Cocoa Puffs, and so much more. And if you did, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching Who Did That Voice. I would love to hear from you. A question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the Episodes tab and listen away. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us next time for our special guest, Susan Silo, the voice of Neptunia from Darkwing Duck. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.